Alright guys, what is up? It is your boy Shin, and today for the very first official video for the Shinpon Gachi channel, we're going to be giving out some tips for new players in Honkai Star Rail that I wish I had or I had listened to when I started my account. Now I started 2 days after the game started, so I'm not technically a day one player, but I'm basically a day one player. So let's just get right into it. Now, first thing first, I just want to clarify that this is going to be for free-to-play players or players who get at most the monthly pass or the battle pass, just because free-to-play players, they're going to have the least amount of resources to work with, so that this would apply to being more like resource efficient methods or tips. So the first one I'm going to recommend is limiting the amount of characters you build. Now, this game has the great problem of having really cool characters. All of them are really cool. Like, for example, even one of the quote-unquote worst characters in the game, Arlen, his kit is really cool and he looks really cool. Same thing with Yansheng, Hook, QQ. Well, QQ is really good, but Susheng, Herda, Danheng, like, they're all really cool. And you get into a spot where, like, you do what I did and you get everyone, like, you level them up, and then you run out of resources. So then when you're trying to build characters you actually want, you have to stop what you're doing and farm experience for your characters. And that sucks. It is not fun. It's just not cool. It's not fun, and that's the biggest thing. We're trying to make this fun. Now, you can build as many characters as you want, but if you want to get to like the end game content and enjoy that stuff faster, I would say limit your characters to 8 to 10 characters max. Now, you can go more than that if you want, like I said, but I think once you pass that 10, or once you get to that 10th character, you're going to be running low on character resources. And I say character resources for like your XP for the character themselves, their light cone, their traces. Don't gotta worry about relics, but you're going to run out and it's going to be spread thin. So I think focusing on like one team of 4 is important first, because that's the team you're going to use throughout the story. And, you know, just like for your daily grinding and stuff, just have one team that you can use for farming, and then, you know, slowly build up your second team for the end game content like Memory of Chaos. So that is my first tip. Limit the amount of characters you build, 8 to 10. Anything past that, you're going to be really starting to struggle for getting characters built efficiently. Not saying that you can't do it. It's just, this is in the sense of in a timely manner, where at the beginning of the game, they give you a bunch of resources and then you'll waste them all on a bunch of other characters and stuff that you might not like or end up using really. So next up, about the characters, build one at a time. Now, when you're going to build a character, I highly recommend, unless you played like Genshin Impact, I recommend you look up build guides. And even so, for characters that, like, you know, this game's very different. The way this game plays compared to Genshin is very different in my opinion. I would look up either guides on YouTube. There are websites that you can look at. One of my favorite channels to look at goes by Sevi Plays. I'll put a screenshot of their, like, you know, page, and I'll link it in the description. But I really like how she explains the characters' kits, like their potential like recommended gear, so like their relics, trace priorities, light cones, teams. You know, like, she just, the way she gives the information is very helpful and easy to digest in my opinion. But there are other websites that allow you to do that. So use, especially with this game coming out with 2.0 soon, there's plenty of resources for you to figure out how to build your characters. So please take advantage of them. It makes things so much better. It makes things so much easier for you. I don't see why you wouldn't want to use that. Now, coming back to building one at a time, I'm not saying completely ignore all the characters. So, like, let's say you want to build Kafka first, leave Sampo, Guinaifen, Fushuen all at level 1, get her to level 80, and then work your way down. No, that's not what I'm saying. I am saying, let's say this is your first team, right? Level her up to, let's say, level 30. Get her ascended. So she's like 30 out of 40. Do that for all the characters for their levels. Like prioritize her first in that 4. That way, like when you use your stamina or your energy or your resin, whichever you want to call it, you know what you're doing and you know like where to focus. Like let's say if you're building like these 3, they're all Nihility. They all use the same trace material. So like you can farm for her and whatever she has left over, you can possibly use for him or her. But still, like you're focusing on making sure one character is built. Level wise, they're maxed out. And then, you know, just kind of keeps things like easy, simple, streamlined. At least that's how it makes sense to me, like just kind of going down the list. And then the next thing I want to talk about is team composition. There are 2 parts to this I want to talk about. First one's going to be aggro or taunt values. So in this game, there are different taunt values for each like class. So like, you know how like, for example, like Kafka, Sampo, Grenaifen, they're all Nihility and Fushuan's Preservation. So the order of highest priority in terms of taunt value is Preservation, Destruction, and then it's, I believe, Erudition, Harmony, Hunt. I don't remember. I don't remember. I apologize. But I know for sure it's Preservation and Destruction in that order from highest to second highest. Those are like the ones that you want are like generally are going to be getting hit the most. Now it doesn't prevent your other teammates from getting hit, but it just makes it more likely for them to be hit. That kind of leads into the second part of team composition, which is placement. So placement does matter in this sense. So for example, like let's say I want to use Lynx instead of Fushuan. Lynx gives aggro or taunt value to destruction or preservation character. So what I usually would do is like, you know, put Clara here because of her kit. She wants to get hit to counterattack. So I put her in the middle like this, but off to the side. So she gets hit by splash damage, if not hit directly. But I also put Lynx right here so that it's not both my secondary DPS and my buffer getting hit at the same time. Like sure, Topaz is going to get hit, but generally that will also mean Clara is getting hit just as much. So there's that like synergy built into the team to enable her as well. Now, if you're using a team like this, where nobody wants to get hit except for your tank or your preservation, then it doesn't matter where you put them. But generally, my rule of thumb is put your tank or your preservation or your destruction at the end, and then like your sustainer, just because they're going to be like your second beefiest unit in your team generally, especially like with healers where they scale off HP, so they're going to have a lot of HP, so they're going to be able to take that splash damage. But it doesn't mean that you shouldn't invest in defensive allies, but again, that's just besides the point. And kind of talking about this a little bit for like character synergy. For Clara, I would recommend using Lynx, or if you don't have Lynx, you can use as a substitute March 7th. Their skill does the same thing. Essentially, just one gives a shield, the other one heals. Lynx is technically better, but you're given March 7th for free. So she has a great option for that synergy because she also does follow-up attacks. So she gives aggro to Clara, which gets Clara hit more often, which will fire off both follow-up attacks more often, allowing their damage to go up as a whole. So your team would go higher in damage. So there are definitely ways to play around that, but I would also recommend running like Natasha or a healer with March 7th because she doesn't heal really unless you have her at E6. But those are the main things. So kind of just keep in mind like placement of your characters depending on which ones they're using, because that does affect or kind of make things harder or easier. Because like I said before, if you're putting both your sub DPS and your that are squishy right next to your character that's going to get hit a lot, they risk dying right away, because if the splash damage is too much and you don't get a chance to heal them, they die, and then obviously you lose DPS and all that fun stuff. So like just something to keep in mind when you think about it, when you think about making a team and everything. So that, to me, that's important. So I want to share that with you guys. And another example of team building is just overall kit synergies. So with this one, I want to talk about Kafka, and yes, we call her Dot Mommy. So if you were big brained and based enough to pull for Kafka, like you should, what her kit does is she enables dot damage dealers, so like damage over time, by using her skill and her ultimate to front load the damage, so you don't have to wait for the opponent to take their turn, because that was the biggest flaw of dot damage dealers in this game, was that it was too slow. Kafka front loads that damage, but you also need more dots, because the more dots you're applying, the more damage she's dealing, which basically these two are like sub DPS / buffers for Kafka, because she's enabling them to deal their damage, but it's like on her turn, if that makes sense. So with her, you want to run DPS characters. Now, for now, you're running Sampo until Black Swan comes out, because I'm recording this the week before Black Swan comes out. And I'm running Gwynaifen for now on this team just because of her kit. Fire Kiss just allows you to do more damage to target opponent with it. And she also inflicts burn, so just I prefer having the triple dot setup, which that is the most important thing. At the end of the day, the biggest tip, we're going to skip right to it. Biggest tip, have fun with the game. No matter if you're just playing casually, if you don't want to do Memory of Chaos stuff, whatever. Build who you want to build. Don't listen to whether or not a character is meta or not, because it doesn't matter. Waifu over meta. Whoever you enjoy is meta. It's a single player game. There is no PvP. Don't worry about it. If you want to build the best, the most funny team ever, Blady Sitter, and build this, go for it. It's a fun team. Is it optimal? Probably not. It's technically not bad, but it is funny as hell to see Blady Sitter and see Blade, this super edgy guy, with all these little kids. It's super funny, and that's what's the most important. I love running content with this team and just kind of seeing it go ham and like it actually be pretty functional. That's what's fun to me. I like having follow-up attacks. I think Clara's playstyle is really fun, so I built a team around that. Same thing with dots. I love dot effects in games, in JRPGs and stuff. So I was so happy when Kafka got announced that was her whole thing. That, at the end of the day, is the most important tip I can give you, is have fun. It's not worth playing if you're not having fun, because then you are just wasting your time being miserable. And with how the world is right now, we have a hard enough time just trying to be happy a little bit. That is my last tip, but there is a secret tip for those of you lucky people who watch to the end of the video, and that is to check out my Twitch streams at twitch.tv/shimpone_, and check out my Discord in the description down below. I'm constantly talking about the game. I stream this game. I've been playing through the Genshin Impact story for the first time, and I also stream fighting games as well, so check those out in the links in the description down below. And with that, you beautiful people, have a good one, and bless those polls.